Great. And so I think without any further delays, I'll hand it over to LaRue County High School here. You guys should be co-hosts, but
Okay.
yeah.
So
Oh yeah, and one more thing I'll add, sorry. Just as far as questions. For now, I will try to moderate. I'll keep an eye on the chat. So if it's appropriate, I'll interrupt. So anybody who has questions, please put them in the chat. We also have set aside time at the end of the session today for questions. So if we don't get to it during this talk, we'll also address it at the end.
oh, okay, that's fine. We're gonna share our screen here. Make sure everything goes good. Okay. So I guess we introduce ourselves. Does the screen share to get them back on?
I don't hear you so well.
Oh, do you not? You say you don't hear me well? Is this?
I don't, at least. Yeah.
I think I have to fix it.
But we see your screen. Yeah.
Okay, you can see the screen, but you say you can't hear me.
Yeah.
Okay, is it like really bad or is it?
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, make sure. Okay, so my name is Jose Villanos, and I'm the FFA president here at LaRue County High School, and I'm also one of the greenhouse managers. And
I'm the student advisor here at LaRue County, and I'm one of the greenhouse managers as well here at LaRue County.
So basically, how the aquaponics started was Mr. Thomas. He had a student years ago that was interested in aquaponics, and Mr. Thomas never saw it before. So they built like a smaller system, and then eventually they growed it, and it's what the greenhouse is today. So we can go through, show you some pictures, and basically explain how the system and the tasks that we do. So the picture that you're looking at now is our head fish room. So this provides all our nutrients to our main system that we have here, and our main system can hold around 3,600 plants at one time. So the two back tanks are actually breeder tanks. So we have around 30 fish in each, and each of those produce fry, which we use to grow more fish. The first two front tanks have tilapia in them. Each one has around 130 fish, and these ones are the one that provides the most nutrients to the system as a whole.
So some of the tasks that students can do from a day-to-day basis. So we do sludge, so that can be shown here. So this is one of our sludge systems. So this is our bubble bead filter. So basically what happens is the waste comes through here. Explain that better because I don't know.
So basically how it works is that we have to clean the water, of course, because you can't have solid waste running through the system because it would clog up the system, and it's just a mess to flush out and get going back up again. So one of the best ways to filtrate all the waste and out is using a bubble filter, as we see here. So the main purpose of the bubble filter is two major things. It introduces bacteria into the waste to break down the ammonia and the fish waste into nitrates and nitrites, and these nutrients that's used into our plants. And also it takes out most of the major solids in the fish waste. So the only solids that actually gets through all the way through our system is the smaller ones, and those can be managed. So actually cleaning out the bubble filter is a very simple task. All these valves here that you see have to be turned. It may look a little complicated, but Mr. Thomas wanted, which is our advisor, he wanted to run on one singular pump. So I had to come up with a creative idea to do it. So yeah, and that. Also, this is our NFTs here, which of course NFT stands for nutrient film technique. So basically the water that is cleaned by the filtration system goes through these NFTs. We have 5 main rows of NFTs, and each row holds 8 we have 5 columns, and each column holds 8 rows, and each row holds around 70 plants. So right now we're growing different varieties of lettuce. So we're growing Rex, iceberg, and romaine, and all this lettuce is used here at LaRue County High School for our cafeteria. And if we move on, this is some more pictures. So this is a separate system that's in the middle of the greenhouse. We call it our middle system. It is basically a small version of the bigger system. So to grow to a bigger scale, you have to experiment and make sure you know what you're doing. Of course, disasters will still occur, but so this is one of the first systems that Mr. Thomas built. It was actually at our old greenhouse before I was a student here. He and his students, current students then, bought the system and built it, and it's still running to this day. So this uses 4 tanks, of course, and it basically works the same way. The major thing is that it actually houses smaller fish. So this is how we have different growth stages between the fish tanks. It's really good to keep fish with similar growth stages because it's just better to keep track of them and to cut down on diseases and things like that. So how this system works, it doesn't have a bubble filter because those are kind of expensive, and school funding isn't 100% the best thing. So this is a different filtration system. And the things that you're looking here on the screen is actually beads. So these beads are similar to the beads that are inside of the bubble bead filter. And basically, this requires a lot more thorough cleaning. So it takes 2 students to do it around 20 to 30 minutes to clean the filtration system out here. And it should be done every 2 days. If not, it will build up and it would cause pH imbalances, which isn't good for plants. So this water is actually used for a DWC, which is actually horticulture. And at this time, we had a basil growing in our DWC, as you can see. And the students would come here, they would collect basil, so they would harvest it, and they also prune the basil as well. If not, it would get out of control, which it kind of did, to be honest. But our students some of our students wanted to grow basil as an experiment, and we didn't really know if it can grow in the system or not. And they get to make some of their own decisions here, and this is one of their decisions. And then that water goes into the NFTs here, and the water returns back into the fish tank. So this is a separate close-off system, and separate from the major system I showed you before. So, and then lastly, we have our bag system, and you can explain this one, Karen.
So this is different from the other 2 systems that we had. We had a kind of a different view for this system. So how the system works is we have this big tank here we only run tilapia. So we have tilapia in this tank. As you can see here, we've moved these fish. But this sledge is a little different. So it runs off a siphon. So the water will come in through this water over here on the side. The water will come in and it'll circulate. All the solids will settle to the bottom. The siphon will collect those solids. It'll come in through this and come into this little tub here. And then it'll come in through these media beds, which in these media beds is where we're growing peppers. This is actually my experiment, so we didn't know if the peppers would grow in the system. So I decided to do a little experiment and grow some peppers. My peppers are kind of the problem for a little cucumber worm problem that we have in the greenhouse right now. But we are trying to remedy that with some natural solutions, because you cannot put pesticides in the system because you will kill the fish. We did have a little problem with high pH, and that was caused by the solids that were built up in our media beds. So we did have to take all of the rocks out of our media beds and kind of clean those to make sure that our pH stayed lowered so that our plants weren't dying off in our systems. And then here's our germination table that's also connected to that system. So this germination table is where we start out all our lettuce seeds for the most part. So after
a week, they're germinated and sprouted. So we transplant the seedlings into the NFT systems.
Yes, this is where they start off. And
Yeah.
so at this time, I had peppers in the system. I no longer have peppers because they were kind of getting out of control. But we do still grow collard greens in our DWC in this system. This is actually our biggest DWC that we have in the greenhouse. And this is actually run off one pump.
Yeah.
This is,
Yeah.
but you can see the infuse is actually run off one pump too. So all of our systems are run off one pump. Mr.
The big system is run off of 2 of the pumps.
Yeah. But we wanted to make sure that we weren't spending a bunch of money on pumps. So we figured out a way to make sure that we were being a bit more cost effective. So that's just a look at our back system.
So one thing I have to mention is that if you start doing aquaponics, that one thing you're going to have to know is that hundreds of fish is going to die. We have personally I've killed probably 150 fish on my own. And it sucks every time, it really does, to see like months of hard work and then just gone. But it's just part of doing aquaponics, especially when you're a beginner, because they're just simple things that you might mess up on, and next morning half your fish is dead. We actually had in our major fish room here, in our bottom right tank that you see on the screen, we actually had 70 fish get boiled alive. A valve was shut off, and the water heater didn't turn off when it was supposed to, and it basically cooked our fish overnight. And coming back and smelling like fish soup in the greenhouse and cleaning that disaster for like 6 hours, it was a horrible mess. But it also gave our students the opportunity to work through problems and develop ways to control different situations, especially since our teacher wasn't here at the time when this happened. So it just allows students to grow as leaders and think on their feet if need be. So when we started the system, we really was looking for a long-term goal here. And our long-term goal was to sell lettuce at our school cafeteria here. And we're happy to note that we started doing that around 3 weeks ago. It's been going smoothly so far, and hopefully we can continue that. Do you want to explain some of the things that you would do here in the greenhouse?
So some of the things we would do here at the greenhouse, so like I said, just cleaning up the sludge, but coming in the aquaponics system, there's no telling what you're going to do day to day. You might come in and you might have to weigh some fish, or you might come in and there might be a problem that might occur that you might have to deal with that day. But there's just different things that you might have to do, but definitely keeping up with the sludge and making sure that you keep your pest management down is something that you want to make sure to take care of.
Yeah, one of the major things you also learn as you go is you learn pest ID, you learn the plants deficiencies, you learn different diseases plants can get, because all those things are very important to know when dealing with aquaponics. Because we had an aphid outbreak about a year ago, and we had wiped out all our plants. We had to clean everything. It was not a good time, but it just things that happens and occurs, and maybe you want to feel like you want to quit, but it just stuff that is expected to happen as you move on through aquaponics. Let me think. Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, you can ask me or anything like that. We can answer them for you. And if you may not understand something I said, I kind of talk a little fast, so sorry about that. But
Thank you, guys.
yeah,
It's very interesting. I think so. I actually don't yet see our other school joined yet. So we can actually go ahead and take some questions for LaRue County High School already now, if anybody has any. I did have one question. Do you all see, well, I guess my first question, you were saying that kind of, you'll walk in on a given day and sort of see what needs to be done. You kind of end up figuring out on a day-to-day, what it is that you need to do. Did you end up kind of building processes around that, just because you end up sort of doing similar things over and over again?
I think there is sort of a process you start to build. So you start to go through and check the same things. Like in the mornings, I come in and every day I feed the fish. That's the first thing I do in the morning. And then I'll go through and I'll check the plants and I'll check the sludge. And that's just kind of the process I do. But some things might grab your attention before you're able to get those things done.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things you'll learn is like making sure the water is flowing. Because if there's no water flowing, there's a problem somewhere. And it's usually a smaller problem. Maybe there's a valve shut up, maybe something's clogged. But it's something that's very important for the system as well. Especially, and also when you're cleaning different systems, sludge out, their filtration systems and things like that, it's really easier to do it a certain way. Over time, you develop, those skills to figure out if I do it this way, it's the fastest way to get done, and it's the cleanest ways to do it. So, yeah, you develop different ways.
Thank you. So we have some questions here in the chat. One person's asking what fish species you're using.
Oh, yes. So we glossed over it, but we're actually using tilapia in all of our systems. The reason why we use tilapia is because it's extremely hardy fish, and it's very friendly for beginners like us. So they're really good at different temperature ranges. So around 65 to the high 80s, they should be fine. Anything over that, they get stressed out and they might not eat as much. So with us, we make tons of mistakes. Temperatures fluctuating all the time, and problems can occur if you have other species. We actually had some catfish. We had probably 80 of those. Those are in our middle system here, and all of them died because except for two. We still have two, but all of them died except for two because the temperature got a little too low. Because somebody left a water hose in the system, and it just killed them all. Even though if that happened with tilapia, they'll still be here. They would still be here today. But catfish is very particular about the temperature they're set at.
Somebody else asks what the market is for your fish.
So right now we don't really sell our fish yet. The reason why is because most of our main large fish is used for breeder stock, as I said, which is in the back two tanks here, and the front two tanks. The fish are medium sized and they're not really big enough right now to fillet. So most of our market is through lettuce, which is selling at the high school. But one of our plans in the future is to sell fish to some of our local restaurants and community members.
Do you already know when that's going to be, or?
We're not 100% sure. It's probably, we worked out a deal with the school to start selling to the public sometime next school year. Of course, me and Kara, we're seniors, so we won't be there to see that, sadly. But the other students will have the opportunity to work out a business plan for that and hopefully sell a lot of fish to our community.
So we have our next question. How many students are in the class that works with the systems? And for you two as greenhouse managers, do you all work on the weekends, or who works on the weekends actually?
So we have two separate classes that come in. So we have about 40 to 50, I would say, students that are in this class. Me, Jose, and his sister Maria are mainly the people that come in for weekends and over breaks. It's kind of hard to get those students motivated to want to come in over breaks and during the weekends, but we mostly take care of that.
Yeah, especially the biggest problem is basically you're volunteering to come, so you really don't have no instead of learning and educating yourself. That's the real reason why I come on the weekends and the breaks instead of just staying at home and watch TV or something like that. but it is hard to get students, and that's what a lot of schools that do aquaponic systems and things like this. The system always needs to be checked. If we can have a person here 24/7, we would, because then most problems can be avoided. But you just can't. And getting students to come out, not during school, it's a struggle for a lot of schools.
How did you end up becoming a greenhouse manager? Actually, how does that work?
So how I became one, it was my sophomore year in high school, and Mr. Thomas needed somebody to work over the summer, and I wasn't doing nothing that summer, so like I might as well. I got nothing else to do, and over time, we implemented a manager system. So eventually, I became a manager through that, and then Kara. She was chosen. Me and Mr. Thomas chose her as the manager as well, and then us two will decide who the next managers are based on their work ethics and skills here in the greenhouse.
Nice. So we have a question about your water management here. So someone asks if you have a dechlorination system in place for your freshwater additions, I guess freshwater.
Yeah. So we actually don't, but we should. If you're adding extremely large quantities of water, so if you're starting up your system, 100% recommend to dechlorinate your water. However, as us, we don't lose a lot of water throughout a month or throughout a week, so we only add a little bit back in each time, and it doesn't really it really gets neutralized to do any large effect. However, a major downside to that is if somebody accidentally leaves a water hose on or something like that and replaces a lot of water at one time with chlorinated water, it can extremely harm the fish and put a lot of stress on them. And like I said, it's one of the major reason why our catfish end up dying to something like that. But yeah,
How did you get them started actually the first time? Because I guess at some point you had to fill up the tanks with water.
Okay, yeah. So water over time, it dechlorinize itself basically. So if you leave water into the system, make sure there's no fish, no plants, or nothing like that. Over time, it would I can't pronounce, sorry. It would eventually get rid of the chlorine in it, and also you can also put things neutralizers in water as well to neutralize the chlorine in the water. So that's how they started the first time they got the system up and running. That's what they did.
So the follow-up to that last question is whether you remineralize your waste to use.
Yes, we do remineralize our waste. So we put them into, I don't have pictures of it, I wish I did, but we have we got two 250, we got two 250-gallon slush tanks, so 500 gallons total, and we aerate it and mineralize our waste in there. Yeah, you can see it over here in the left side. This one is the slush tanks. So we aerate it and mineralize it in those, and then we actually use that waste into a wicking bed that we also have in the greenhouse. So we don't waste any of the nutrients that the fish provides us. We make sure we use everything we can.